Welcome live, everybody, to the Jim Masters Show, live entertainment, lifestyle, celebrity talk show series. Hope everybody's doing well today. So nice to have all of you here, our lovely squad, our faithful and new viewers watching from all around the world, whether you've been with us since day one, over 1,005 episodes ago, or this is your first time joining us here on the Jim Masters Show live series. Welcome to JMS. It's great to have you here. And we've got an extraordinary guest. Comes from a legendary family. He himself, iconic in what he does as an author and director, producer, lyricist, and playwright. And he is the son of somebody who has been really responsible for a lot of great laughs and a lot of great entertainment and a lot of great television. The legendary, of course, head writer, one of the creators of and producers of I Love Lucy. Yes, Jess Oppenheimer. His son, Gregg, who has been in the industry for a long time as well, is with us here to talk about, of course, his dad, talk about projects, talk about preserving the heritage and sharing some fabulous radio shows and other incredible projects that he is involved in. And we're so excited to have him here. Of course, who doesn't love I Love Lucy? I work in television and radio myself, have for years, as you guys know. So to have any opportunity to talk about this series, but also the extraordinary work that Gregg does today. And we'll talk about all of that. He's got his hands in so many different things. But of course, you know, you take yourself back to the days of Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball, Vivian Vance, and of course, the curmudgeon William Frawley as Fred Mertz. You guys know that we've talked about I Love Lucy on several occasions with various guests who've come in, including our dear friend Lucie Arnaz, who's been a part of our show for a long time, several episodes of the Jim Masters Show live series. Lucy has been here. But of course, the iconic Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz left such an impression on our lives with I Love Lucy. And there's a wonderful photo from Jeff's collection, from Gregg's collection. This is Jess Oppenheimer and Lucille Ball. Yeah, I'm going to show you a lot more as we go along here. But yeah, it is really a wonderful opportunity to celebrate great television, writing, and so much more, preserving it all, and the radio shows too, with Gregg. Now, if you are joining us for the first time, everybody, well, we welcome you. Don't forget, if you'd like to comment during the live show, you can certainly do that in the JMS Levity Hall chat room. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. And if you do that right now, guess what happens? You can comment, you can interact with us. We might even show a comment or two on our screen below, which is cool because, you know, we're very interactive here at the Jim Masters Show live series. So I see a bevy of comments already in the JMS Levity Hall chat room. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and celebrate all this incredibleness with us here as we bring back the lost art of conversation. As I mentioned, there's some wonderful projects that Gregg has been involved in, and this is just one of them. This is another one. We're going to be talking about all of this. He is very big in preserving history, celebrating it, and having a laugh or two, as well as his incredible dad provided for all of us, again, as creator, producer, head writer for I Love Lucy. I tell you, one of the most iconic television series, beloved television series of all time. Just want to tell you a little bit more about our illustrious guest as he joins us from Walnut Creek. And we're very excited about that. He's visiting family. Gregg Oppenheimer got his start in comedy in 1955 at the tender age of 4 when his father introduced him to Lucille Ball on the set of I Love Lucy. Kneeling down, a smiling Lucy asked Gregg, "Where did you get those big brown eyes?" And Gregg deadpanly said, "They came with the face." Lucy nearly fell over laughing. Can you imagine that? Like that age saying that? The wit, dry humor so quickly. After a brief stint as a rehearsal cameraman on the Debbie Reynolds Show, Gregg left Hollywood to attend MIT, where he received a degree in art and design and law school at UC Berkeley. He became a partner in the international law firm of Melvin and Myers in 1986. 10 years later, upon completing his father's memoir, Laughs, Luck, and Lucy, How I Came to Create the Most Popular Sitcom of All Time by Jess Oppenheimer with Gregg Oppenheimer. Gregg decided to give up the practice of law to pursue writing and other creative endeavors. Gregg produced the multi-award-winning I Love Lucy DVD series for CBS. I have my collection. Do you have yours? And starting in 2014, he co-wrote and directed the annual Palm Springs benefit show On the Air, an evening of live radio classics. And that was for the award-winning Desart Performs Theater Company. And directors performers such as Gary Beach, Joyce Bulifant, who's been a guest on our show, Carol Cook, Mariette Hartley, who is going to be joining us next week on the Jim Master Show, Hal Linden, Gavin MacLeod, Millicent Martin, Lee Merriweather, Phil Proctor, Marion Ross, who's been a guest on the Jim Master Show, Fred Willard. And Gregg's comedy play, I Love Lucy, A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Sitcom, based on Laughs, Luck, and Lucy, premiered in 2018 in Los Angeles. A full cast recording is available on Amazon, Audible, and LA Theater Works. And in 2023, the play toured nationally as Lucy Loves Desi. A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Sitcom. Gregg has appeared in Amy Poehler's Emmy Award-winning 2022 documentary, Lucy and Desi, and has been interviewed about Other Lucy on CBS News, 2020, Entertainment Tonight, A&E's Biography, Donnie Marie, CNN, E! Entertainment Television, MSNBC, The History Channel, The Learning Channel, Granada Television UK, NHK Japan. Yes, and you can follow his creative projects too on YouTube and Facebook and so much more as we celebrate I Love Lucy. And of course, we celebrate the incredible work of not only Jess Oppenheimer, but Gregg Oppenheimer joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live. We're so excited. Welcome our very special guest. Join me. Gregg, welcome to the show. It is a pleasure and an honor to have you here today.
Hi, Jim. I don't know how I'm going to follow that build-up.
We had Rita Lee on the other day, yesterday actually. She's on her way to Mexico. She has the house in Mexico. And just before she left, she came on for a return visit. And after I, glowingly talked about, her wonderful career and all the shows and everything else, she said, I think something like, that was one of the best damn obituaries I've ever heard. She said, when it comes time, I want you to do it. Did you record it? I said, and of course, the title of her book is Consider Your Ass Kissed by Rita Lee. It's really, really cool. How are you? How are things? I know you're visiting family and all, and that is nothing better than that, right?
Yeah, I'm great. I've got 2 grandkids and a lot of fun.
Isn't that nice? That's such a beautiful, beautiful thing. Well, welcome to the show. And we're so excited to talk about these great projects that you have that you're very excited about. And of course, early on to be brought to the set of I Love Lucy by your dad, there's she must have seen at that point, you're 4 years old, like she was 9 feet tall, Lucille Ball and company. What was that like? What was that feeling like to be on set at that age, Gregg?
Well, I don't think I had any concept of how big the show was or what a big star she was. I knew she was big compared to me. Yeah. And she had fiery red hair. And the thing I was most excited about, other than I loved the show, was I knew that you weren't allowed on the set if you were under 12 years old. And so I thought this is a great joy for me to be able to get into where all the big kids can.
Yeah, huh? And what was it like? I mean, when you were on set, and the picture courtesy of you, and thank you for that. Were you taken back by it? You're looking at the actual set there at Desilu Studios, everybody in Hollywood for I Love Lucy. Were you immediately hooked? Was it something like, I kind of like this? Look at all these cameras. Look at the sets and look at the coolness of this.
Oh, I thought it was so cool. I visited Desilu as often as I could, and Paramount later. We got on the set of Mission Impossible and Star Trek. They weren't filming the day I went, but went with a friend and stood on the transporter and had him pull the lever, but nothing happened. So fortunately.
No tape self-destructed in 5 seconds or less or anything. Your dad, of course, such a pivotal part of the I Love Lucy family, the Desilu family as well. Did you have a concept as time went on as far as your father's involvement in the show? Was it something that early on you got to appreciate? Wait a minute, that's on TV, and I'm seeing my father's name scroll along here, huh?
We knew what was going on. My dad discussed his work at home a lot, and he was a very funny guy, as you might imagine, to come up with that stuff. And it was a big deal. I mean, not everybody had TV sets back then.
Right.
And we would have parties when my dad's show would come on, and people would come over, and neighbors would come over and watch with us, and it was just wonderful. At one point when I was growing up, we had 9 television sets, and
did you really?
And all but one of the TV sets had been on television. And my dad, when he produced the show, sometimes he would take home the props.
Oh, really? Now, were you able to get any? Do you have any that you have been able to make part of your collection?
I've still got the TV, the same TV I used to watch I Love Lucy on.
Wow.
It's like a Heathkit. It was Fleetwood, 1953.
Right.
It was the first remote control television, but the remote control had this huge cable. And so the cable went around the room, and the controls were built into an end table on the sofa. And so you just lean over the end table and you turn the knob. But,
oh, boy.
Beats getting up. But it's still got that little dot. The picture goes down to this tiny little glowing dot, and then it slowly disappears. So.
You exactly remember that? Yes. Yeah. And then that little glow. Yeah. Oh, I miss all that, station sign on, sign off. So I remember we had the big TV in the living room, and then we had another television also. We had 10, televisions in all the bedrooms and television everywhere. And then I remember if the big set went out, the set that's the furniture, if that went out, the tube went out or whatever, you'd have to call the repairman to come, the TV repairman, but that wouldn't be like immediate. They wouldn't be there immediately. So the smaller set, I don't know if you guys did this in the house, but I mentioned it and people were like, oh yeah, we used to do that too. The smaller set would come out of the den and go into the living room on top of the big TV until the repairman came to fix the tube or whatever.
That was a time when the living room is where the TVs went. And that's the only place it was, the living room.
That was the main place, right? It was a luxury to have them in any other rooms and things of that nature.
Our color TV was in the living room.
Was it? That's exactly where ours was. Yes.
Dinosaur and Perry Como.
The 25-inch television, the furniture, and the big stereos. Tell us about your dad. For those who see that name, in the credits of lots of great television, what was your dad like?
He was the nicest guy in the show business, I must say. He was a lot of people said he was the best producer they ever had, and he cared about other people. He wasn't on all the time trying to get laughs, but he loved getting laughs. He loved telling stories, and he took his work very seriously. Yeah. He came out of radio.
That's right.
He got started when he was in the early 20s in radio in San Francisco, and then came down to Hollywood and managed to get a job on Fred Astaire's program. So in the age of 23, he's writing network coast to coast program for Fred Astaire, and then he got a job on Jack Benny, writing the Jack Benny program. So he was a staff writer for Jack Benny for a little while, and Edgar Bergen and Charlie McCarthy. And if you can believe, there's a ventriloquist on radio, but since he'd been working for Fred Astaire as a dancer on radio, that didn't seem so strange. All the great comedians he worked for on the radio: Burns and Allen, Jack Benny, Fanny Bryce. He wrote the Maggie Snook Show for
That's
Fanny
right.
Bryce. And he, by 1948, he'd worked for everybody in the business except, it turns out, Lucille Ball. He just hadn't met up with her. And they needed a writer for her radio show, because her radio show was started during the summer, and it was written by the people who were writing Ozzie and Harriet, and they had to go back to writing Ozzie and Harriet in the fall, and so they needed someone to replace him. And they asked my dad, who happened to be available because Fanny Bryce had just quit the radio show.
Yeah.
And he said, "Sure, I'll write a script." And he made a fateful decision, because Lucy's show, it was not doing well. It was a show about a socialite wife of a bank vice president, and it was really a society show. It was based on some book called Mr. and Mrs. Cougat. Dad changed her character when he wrote a script for them. He changed her character into Baby Snooks, into the Fanny Bryce character he'd been writing. Like a little girl Fanny Bryce played a little girl who drove her daddy crazy, getting in trouble. And well, suddenly Lucy was playing that same, except she drove her husband crazy.
Right.
And that was the origin of Lucy Ricardo. And they hired him to be producer and head writer for the radio show. And then it became such a hit with that new character that they said, let's take this to television.
Which was really something, It was, they sort of also founded that 3-camera system too, right? Having all 3 cameras, getting all the different angles rolling, and also creating the rerun, which is so instrumental.
Well, all the shows back then, or practically all the shows, the network shows, were done in New York.
Right.
And they had 3 cameras, but it was live. And it's one thing to have 3 live cameras. It's another thing to have 3 film cameras. Nobody had ever done that for a sitcom, and particularly with an audience watching. I mean, Playhouse 90, Studio One, those were all done live, but not in front of an audience. Technologically, they didn't really know how to make it work. But Lucy and Desi did not want to go to New York. They wanted to raise their family on the West Coast. So they put their foot down and said that's the only way we'll do it. And they had to come up with something, and they came up with that idea. And they got Carl Freund, this great cinematographer. Actually, the closest thing that had been done, there was a show called Truth or Consequences.
Oh yeah,
Ralph Edwards' show, and that was done with 2 cameras, I believe.
Right.
Stationary cameras. It was shot in a theater. And the cameras were on raised platforms, and when they were going to go cut to they were going to be on one side of the stage and move to the other side of the stage, and they reloaded and they were starting the other camera up. And Ralph told me, I was interviewing Ralph, Laughs Like and Lucy. He said, he'd walk from one end of the stage to the other, and they didn't have a clapboard. He's not going to have a clap stick, and for syncing the sound. So as he walked, he says, "And now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go and that was the clap stick, him clapping, and nobody realized that's what he was doing." And so that they hired the guy who had put that system together, and Carl Freund, came up with this flat lighting system with the lights hanging down from the catwalks, and they still, they devised everything, and they basically still shoot 3-camera sitcoms that way today.
Absolutely right. Do you think that he and the rest knew? I know I've asked Lucy Arnaz this question a couple of times, off the air at events we've been at, but also here on the show, if they knew that it was, what was the secret formula, secret sauce to this series that takes basic premises that we all deal with, things we deal with in our lives. Mm-hmm. You maybe ramps it up a little bit for the humor, but yet it's things that we can all identify with, the longevity, standing the test of time. And she said she immediately goes right to the incredible script writers, the incredible writing that happened, the perfect casting of everybody, the Vivian Vance, the William Frawley. I remember originally, I think for Vivian Vance, they wanted B. Benaderet, and I
Mhm.
think Gail Gordon for Fred Mertz.
It was a radio show.
Right,
Yes.
right, exactly. But the casting, the writing, and they really cared. They all cared about the product and putting out good product. And that's really the case, right?
It was like a little theater company.
Yes.
They stayed till midnight, just going, discussing. After in the middle of midweek, they had this late night session where they would just go over everything, and everybody, the cast and crew, everybody's opinion was respected, and they would raise things. It was interesting. Lucy, she could sense if something was wrong with a scene, if it didn't work for some reason. She wasn't that good at figuring out why it didn't work, but she knew if it didn't work. So she wasn't a great script doctor. You know who was? Vivian Vance. She figured out how to fix it. Oh, this is what we got to do. And Bill Frawley didn't really care. He just
he wanted to go to those Yankee games, right?
Yeah, he's the only actor who said he complained when he had too many lines in the script, and he would just tear his pages out.
Yeah, and I had read somewhere where William Frawley, of course, Fred Mertz, everybody, he had it, I think, worked in the contract where if the Yankees were in the series, that period of time, he's off. So whatever they were going to record had to be recorded earlier, prior, or whatever, or he wouldn't just be in those episodes because the Yankees were in the series type thing.
Absolutely. That's in the play too.
Yeah, right. Exactly. It's quite a thing when you see something like I Love Lucy and these other shows take on the life that they have, and that how people, generations of people, myself included, turn to these shows still today. Some of the best, I Love Lucy, Dick Van Dyke, all of these great, well-written, fantastically shot, great theme songs that you remember, that you can sing to. And there's a warmth, there's a comfort, there's an escape, brings you back to simpler times. These shows really are not just part of American television history, but international, because dubbed in so many languages. And I remember Bob Hope on one of his shows saying to Lucille Ball in later years, I Love Lucy's been on all these years and it's running in, 200 countries or something like that. And she goes, really? Well, if they are, they're not paying for them. It's, I know you're very humble about it all, but it is really a legacy that continues to be very endearing, very comforting. How does that feel when you were a teenager, when you were in your 20s? Was that ever a burden for you, or did you embrace the notoriety, embrace everything? Did you look at it like, wow, look at the fabulous people we're being exposed to, introduced to, these celebrities, these major talent, and then of course developing your own skills, incredible skills along the way? What was that like early for you? Were you comfortable with all of the notoriety that was coming along with your dad's profession?
Well, I was always very proud of my dad. And a lot of people would say, "Are you related to J. Robert Oppenheimer?" And I said, "No, the other one." But and in fact, at one point when J. Robert Oppenheimer, everybody's pronouncing the name correctly lately for some reason, when he lost his security clearance, they had a newspaper article about it in Los Angeles newspaper, and they grabbed the wrong photo from the photo morgue, and they ran my dad's picture right in the middle of the theater. And they offered, it was just an early edition, and they offered to print a retraction, and my dad decided it was just as well, and he didn't want to have any more publicity than he needed. And also, how many people are going to believe the same person invented the atomic bomb and Lucy Ricardo?
Right.
But My dad was adamant. I mean, I worked on the Debbie Reynolds show. I got that job myself. He refused to hire me.
Really?
He did not believe in nepotism at all. And I was just hanging around, and the guy who was supposed to run the rehearsal cameras didn't show up the first day of filming at MGM. And I said, I know how to use that, because it was the very first home videotape, the Sony unit that they came out with. And they had that in my high school, and I used to take the gym meets, so I knew how to operate it, and that's why I offered to do it. And at the end of the day, the production manager asked me to work there, and I said, you'll have to ask my dad. And they said, okay, because he had nothing to do with it. And that was just, I just fell in love with Hollywood at that point. We were on, you sit around and wait a lot. I mean, that's what being on a set is like. Most of the time, you're just waiting for them to do the lighting and everything. And, but I was, trading stories I didn't have any stories. I was listening to stories from Al Molinaro, from Happy Days, and Tom Bosley, who was already on the show. And I was 18. And I remember Al Molinaro asked me once, he said, tell me something, Greg. How old are you? I said, 18. He says, tell me, you get much at 18? I just turned bright red.
He's talking ice cream, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Straight to the point. And the key is, because you can't leave us hanging, but what was your response?
I didn't have a response.
You were like, wait a minute, what's happening? Am I on the Twilight Zone? Is this a dream sequence?
Well, I was dating the girl who ran the tours at MGM at the time, but I really not saying anything.
Yeah. So your father, of course, established. He has his career, and then you're diving in. But like I mentioned, you've had an opportunity to do a lot of other things. People might assume, and are probably surprised when I did the obituary at the beginning of the show, as Ruta Lee calls it. You went into law and received a degree in art and design from MIT. Tell us about some of that trajectory and some of the ideas of going into those areas as well. Great things to have under your belt, of course, but what made you add those into your life experiences, Greg?
Well, I was all into math science when I was in high school, and I was the math whiz in my high school. And until I got to MIT, and which sends the best from every place around the world, and nearly flunked calculus. The other thing that happened when I got to MIT is I got glasses, and I found out I've been seeing double, which was my dad's same problem since I was little and had no idea. So I'd never seen 3D. So I immediately became a visual studies major. Just a lot of creativity there, and took art lessons, studio art, history of art, and I just became basically an art major. But they don't have a Bachelor of Arts in MIT, so I got a Bachelor of Science in Art, of all things. But can't earn a living doing that very easily, so I went to law school and joined a big law firm. And but when my dad passed away, I found his memoirs, which I had seen before because he'd given it to me to edit, and we worked on the first 75, 85 pages of it together, and then he put it aside. And I decided, this is too good. I have to finish this. And so the next few years I spent working on that, and I had more fun. I reconnected with the whole Lucy world, including Lucy Arnaz, and I had just so much fun doing it. And it was so much more fulfilling than being a lawyer. That I said I have to do this. So I left the firm, and then I went from that to producing the I Love Lucy DVDs, and where, believe it or not, my art and design background came in handy, because I designed every screen is designed by Yours Truly.
Really?
Yeah.
That whole collection, the ones that you saw in, Best Buy and all the places, that whole DVD series that you were involved in, all of that?
I made everything in Photoshop. I'm like,
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. I have that whole that's worn out almost. We played that so much. And the bonus, of course, the bonus material that's on the DVDs as well. It's quite a process putting those together, isn't it? And getting all the bonus footage and everything.
absolutely. And there's Easter eggs on there. I don't know if you found them, but and Lucy on the radio, if you bring the cursor to the mic, there's some extra stuff.
Yeah. Which is fantastic.
My favorite part about that was I doing a biographical profile on every guest actor who appeared on the show, because there were so many great, the people who were Cuban pals. This guy was in Casablanca and Gone with the Wind. I mean, they had quite a cast, and anybody they wanted for that show, they keep it on that show, including some great stars.
Yeah. The episode with William Holden and Vivian Vance taking
That's
the
my
scissors out and cutting the spaghetti. That whole trip when they did go to Hollywood and to LA was really, really cool. And I love, all of the episodes, but that episode when they were driving to, California, here we go, when they had to stop off in that dumpy motel. And, they're trying to get sleep and the train keeps going by and the bed's shaking and Desi falls off the bed and everything. And then the beds are coming together and that's just hysterics. And of course, grumpy, Fred, what's going on? Trying to get shut eye. Just the casting was so great. And Vivian Vance and Lucille Ball really did have a very close, deep friendship. You could see so many times on awards shows and just when they were on the Dinah Shore show and all the Merv and Mike Douglas and all the different ones, Carson, where when somebody would ask about, the cast and those folks, because they were gone, of course, prior to Lucy, how much she paid homage to the writers, to the crew, to her love of Vivian, Desi, everybody. And especially with Vivian, there was this real deep, true, honest friendship on camera and off.
Yeah, they developed that. When Lucy first saw Vivian, she thought, she's too pretty. This it doesn't seem like a frumpy landlady to me. And Vivian assured her, you should see me when I wake up in the morning. I'm all dolled up for the first reading, but don't worry, I'll look like a landlady.
And she actually gained some weight too, right, for the role?
I don't think that's a legend.
Yes.
It was a practical joke that they did, and they had a phony contract that they brought one of the talk shows about her having to but that was never really true.
That's great. See, now that is terrific. You got the source right here, on set at 4 years old. That's good to know. I'm glad that is, because that's something that people have always said, which never seemed correct. And I'm glad that you mentioned that.
They had an episode called Charm School where they had them both all dolled up.
Yes,
we're not always trying to make Vivian Vance look frumpy.
Right. A Freudian Frawley slip. So you got this degree in law, which actually comes in good when you're dealing with contracts and business relationships and entertainment law and copyright and all the different things that are involved in it all. But you wanted to pay homage to all these incredible people, including your dad in the way that you did, and with the memoir, which I think is really something very, very special. And on all the things that we're talking about, everybody, we'll tell you how you can get them. They're all still available. But the memoir itself, like this one here, Laughs, Luck, and Lucy, How I Came to Create the Most Popular Sitcom of All Time. Tell us about this. And of course, with your involvement, of course, what was this like and how did you decide to do this?
Well, the book, I decided to finish when I found the manuscript after my dad passed away, and it came out in 1996. It's been quite a while.
Yeah.
But I have a YouTube channel, something
Yes.
where I do sort of visual radio shows. They call it online radio theater. And one of the shows that I did was the first part, based on the first part of that memoir, and it was called Playing Both Sides. And my friend Ivan Curry, who used to be on the Jack Benny program, did such a great job playing my dad. I asked him, would you narrate my dad, the unabridged audiobook of Laughs Luck and Lucy? And he said he would. And we spent a year and a half. He has a supporting cast of 28, I should say, including Lucy and Desi and Vivian Vance, Bill Frawley, Gail Gordon, Hans Conried, who played Captain Hook. Well, Lucy fans know him as Percy Livermore, the English tutor.
Oh, yeah.
Captain Hook in Disney's Peter Pan, Bea Benaderet. Alison Arngren played Fanny Rice for me on it. Alison Arngren was Nellie Olson on
Yes. She's coming on our show next week again for a return visit. She's got a great sense of humor. And her mother, wasn't she the voice of Gumby and all these different characters? Incredible, huh?
Her memoir is great too. Alison's Confessions of a Prairie Bitch.
Oh, yes.
And Phil Proctor and David Osmond from Firesign Theater play Al Jolson and John Barrymore. And we've got Lost I Love Lucy scenes that were cut out and have never been rerun. And we have those in the audiobook too. And it's just been a labor of love. So,
aren't you working on something involving Groucho too?
Yeah, well, on my YouTube channel, and all this is free on my YouTube channel.
Yeah.
We do these shows. The first one we did was Burns and Allen with Jack Benny guest star and Rich Jack Benny. And the most recent one, which debuts, I think, October 30, is Groucho on the radio. And we have Frank Ferrante, who's world famous and award winning. And if you watch this and you don't know it's not really Groucho, you'll think it really is.
You'll think it is, yeah.
And we have these Marx Brothers routines that my dad wrote that haven't been seen or heard since 1937. I have a script, but there are no recordings that survive. So Frank and some of the people came on and we create these things.
So he wrote routines for the Marx Brothers too, huh? Wow, that's extraordinary. When I think of your father, I also think of like the Carl Reiners of our world too, similar just in terms of these contributions and the dry wit. Just to be able to take everyday situations, Carl with Dick Van Dyke, your father with Lucy, and all these other incredible shows, just to be able to take the understanding of the human condition and make it funny. One of my favorite actors, I was just having a conversation with somebody about it this afternoon, a radio show that I host in New York, news program. And I was talking to the guest off air about Jack Lemmon and how Jack Lemmon was so good. He could take on every role, grumpy old man. I mean, all these great movies and everything. But shows like, or movies like The Out of Towners, Neil Simon's Out of Towners with Jack and with Sandy Dennett's, capturing the struggles of the everyday man just trying to survive it all, or Prisoner on Second Avenue. And he just had this extraordinary ability to capture the idiosyncrasies of the craziness of life. And your father had that uncanny ability. Carl Reiner, that uncanny ability, and Gary Marshall and so many others, Norman Lear, of course. It's pretty cool. Would you say that that's been passed down to you, that your humor, your comedy, your writing is very similar to your father's, or do you have your own style unto yourself, Gregg?
I'd say the style is similar. I don't hold myself being at my father's level, because I think he's one of the greatest writers, in show business history. My father and I were very close, and would always be trying to crack each other up, and we're constantly finishing each other's sentences. So we were on the same wavelength, and in fact, it drove the rest of our family crazy sometimes.
Because you had your own like inner secrets, inner jokes, like. And
well,
we
we'd be off in the corner talking to each other and ignoring everybody else.
You like be doing routines at the Thanksgiving table, and
Yeah.
let's talk turkey. That is funny. Let's also we'll circle back to some of the other things. Let's also talk about some of the things. You're a playwright, you're a lyricist, an author, a producer. In addition to this project and a few other things, with the Groucho coming up, which we're looking forward to, what are some other things you're proud of that you yourself have worked on, Gregg?
I should mention that one of the things I'm very happy about is the play, Lucy Loves Desi. A funny thing happened on the way to Sitcom. It was just published by Next Stage Press. And so that's available for people, high schools, dramas. I Love Lucy, that you're showing, that's the original title. And we changed it to Lucy Loves Desi so people don't think it's an episode of the series. Which
of
is
the
not.
Actual, right, exactly.
What it is the story of I Love Lucy, how it became a hit, how it got on the air, and her pregnancy, how that got on the air, because that was verboten back then. But told in a way that it feels like an episode of I Love Lucy. So I guess you could say my style is the same as my dad's, because people have said it feels like an I Love Lucy episode. But I wanted, theater companies, community theater, and colleges and high schools and everything to be able to put this on. It's such a natural, and it's presented as a 1950s style radio program. So it's really easy to produce, because all you need is a blank stage, an empty stage, and microphones on stands and some chairs. And we provide the music cues even, because they come with the script. And I've done, when I was developing the play, I produced it all over directed productions of it all over Los Angeles, just workshops, and it always went over really well, because everybody knows the material, and they like to laugh, and so that's one of the things I'm proudest of.
Well, how long did it take to put that together?
I wrote it. Well, I was working on a screenplay, but I wasn't really getting anywhere with it, and for the 50th anniversary of, or I guess the 100th anniversary of Lucy's birth in 2011, I was invited to Jamestown for the Lucy Fest.
Oh yeah.
And they asked me if to do a radio show on the theater there, and I said, I have a play. Didn't have a play, but I wanted to force myself to write one. I have a play. So they said sure. So now I had a deadline, and so I took my screenplay, such as it was, and I turned it into a 35-minute piece. And from 2011 to 2017 or something, I worked on it and developed it and changed it until it finally became what it is now. And LA Theater Works said, we love it, let's put it on. And it opened and played to sold out houses the entire time. And we did, and then we did a national tour through 21 cities, and it was very successful. And now anybody, any local theater company can do it, and I hope they do.
Isn't that terrific? And what has the feedback been from not only folks who just went to see it and enjoy it, but the real die-hard I Love Lucy fans of situation comedy, maybe Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz fans? They must have fallen in love with it, huh?
They love it the most. And
yes.
Dixon Dern, who was the attorney for Desi Lou back in the day, he went to see it. He was like 95 or something, and he came up to see me after, and he was very impressed with it. He said, everybody, the words they were saying, it was all true. And that's the thing. We didn't make a whole bunch of stuff up. I don't know if people may have seen the Aaron Sorkin film recently.
Yes.
That was fictionalized. And
Yes,
I don't think anybody in any of the characters in that movie ever said any of the things that the words
that were said.
Yes, but in this movie, in this play, my play, I tried to take things that I knew people had said and made the dialogue out of that, and so it's a true story.
What was it like, and how did you know when you were finished? You know, it's like writing a book, and one of the hardest things is knowing sometimes how to begin it, but also to finish it off and say, we're good. We've covered it as much as we can cover as far as scripting and what we want to get across. How'd you know when you were done, or was it tweaked along the way?
Oh yeah, I
Yes
was.
to it all. Yes, all of the above.
It came out in 2018, and up to the very last minute, I was tweaking it. I was there for the rehearsals when they did the tour, the national tour. I tweaked some more. The BBC did a production with Anne Hesh
Oh, yeah.
each played Bill Frawley, and made some tweaks there. And I knew it was finished when the theatrical publisher said, "Okay, I need it today," and I stopped making changes at that point.
That is funny. Um, you know, having this comedic gene within you, like your father, um, has it helped you sort of get through life? You know, the craziness of flat tires on the highway and overflowing toilets and you know, things that just happen. Do you turn to humor to try to lighten the load in everyday life, kind of like is depicted in I Love Lucy and some of these other iconic series that we love so much?
Oh, yeah, you can't get through life without humor. Um, I, and talking about is it useful for other things? When I was in law school, I interviewed with some law firm. I can't remember what firm it was, but they said, "Tell us what you think your greatest asset is." And I said, "My sense of humor," and I did not get an offer. That's not what they were looking for.
Not quite what yeah, that's that is funny.
I had I wish I had a better comeback because I had a friend who Doug Johnson. He interviewed with a firm called a Washington D.C. firm called Johnson and Johnson, and they asked him what attracted them to their firm. He said, "You seem like my kind of people."
That is funny. You know, our dear friend Chris Corman is here, of course. We love Chris. Good to see you, Chris. He said there would be no Frasier, Cheers, MTM without your father. He set the bar for situation comedies. You know, there is a lot of truth to that, right?
Yeah, they invented it. I mean, it's amazing. You know, that a show would have. I don't know what it is right now because with streaming and everything, it's so strange. But there would be like 18 people on the writing staff, and they'd have several producers. And when they started I Love Lucy, they had one producer, 3 writers, and they put out 40 shows in 40 weeks.
Unreal, yeah.
Yeah, and the amazing thing, you know, today if you go see a sitcom film, it takes 3.5 hours if you're lucky. And I Love Lucy was done. I think the record was 42 minutes from the time that they brought the audience in to the time they said, "Okay, that's it, folks." The one thing, one exception to that was when they did the freezer episode. You know, when she gets caught in the freezer.
Oh, yes.
And everything. They shot the last scene where she's caught in the freezer. Well, the makeup took 45 minutes to put on. So they shot it without. They just put a couple of icicles quickly on her and powdered her face and her hair, and they shot it with like that. And then they told the audience, "Okay, you can go now, but you know, because it's going to take us like 45 minutes to put on, and we're going to shoot that scene again. If anybody wants to stay, they're welcome to do so." Not one person left. Everybody stayed and sat there for 45 minutes. And it still only took, even with that, it only took, 2 hours. But now you have to sit there for 3.5 hours to watch a sitcom done.
You're exactly right. And
Because they do everything twice. They'll do every gag twice, and then tell everybody, please laugh at the same places.
Somebody I think asked, I think maybe it was Chris Corman or somebody else. I think Chris. How did your father feel about the laugh track? The canned laughter. Did he like that? And there are some iconic laughs that you hear. Certain, especially female laughs that you hear. That are perfectly placed at certain times where it's almost part of the series, those certain laughs. And one, I believe, was Lucille Ball's mother, Edie, right?
Yes. The only editing they did on the laughs was to, if they would cut some dialogue for time, they would have to bridge the cut, if it was in the middle of a laugh, and sometimes they would put some distinctive, or louder laugh in there to cover it. But all the laugh is real. And the way you can tell it's real, for instance, in the Cornell Wilde episode where she comes down stringing the towels together and is hanging outside the hotel. Yeah. First, she throws down her shoe to get Ethel's attention. And then when she's hanging down and you see her feet come in, you can see she's only wearing one shoe. And if you listen closely, you can hear one woman in the audience say to somebody else, she threw down her other shoe before. You can actually make that out.
You can actually hear that.
But they're all, they're what you hear is the audience experiencing it for the first and only time, because there was a no retakes rule. There were never any retakes on I Love Lucy. If they would make a mistake, they would keep it in, and you see it sometimes. Sometimes they would do an insert shot after the audience leaves, if they have to do a close-up of Lucy, and the camera would block the audience, but no retakes.
Who was the woman that in the laugh track that goes, "Uh-oh"?
Yeah, I don't know. It's my aunt sometimes laughing.
I was going to say, and I think I heard some of those laughs in other shows that were, done. Yeah.
Charlie Douglas invented the laugh track machine. That's right. He stocked it. He was at CBS, and he had access to the whole laugh library from I Love Lucy, and so he stocked it full of I Love Lucy laughs. And so that's, you hear all Lucy's mother on other shows for years.
If people, read the memoir, and it's available on Audible as well, what would they learn? What are some little, we don't want to give it all away, but some juicy nuggets, some wonderful things that are shared with the audience, but the reader? And what are some things you learned about the whole process, the show, and your dad while putting this together?
I had no idea before this just how difficult it was to put this together, and I learned some of that from going through the publication process of a book, and I realized how many things can go wrong in any kind of a project, and just some minor thing like for a book, like picking the type size or something, and somebody makes it 2 sizes too small, and suddenly nobody can read it. Okay, all that works down the drain. And the same kind of thing is on a TV show. There are a million things you can get wrong. But there are things like how people say, did Bill Frawley and Vivian Vance really hate each other? And they really got along well at first. But Vivian Vance was resented a little bit the fact that Bill Frawley was 22 years older than she was. And she said, how can anybody believe that old man is married to a young thing like me? And she happened to be saying that once and Frawley heard it, and he was offended by that, and he, deeply. And so they didn't get along that well, but they were real professionals, and you never saw it on the show. And everybody loved each other on the show. That one thing that I learned, they cared deeply about the show and each other, and you can't have a successful comedy show that lasts that long and is so successful and so funny if everybody hates each other. And it just you can't fake that.
That's so true. Yeah. Did you prefer the episodes where they were in the New York City apartment, or did you like when they moved to Westport, Connecticut and raised chickens and all the rest?
My dad left before they moved to Westport, so I prefer the ones in
For the New York City ones. Did you like the original apartment? It was so exciting when they moved to the apartment up higher up with the
Yeah.
window and the piano by the window and just the more modern look to the set, the new furniture and everything as well.
Well, the first time I went on the set was they were shooting the Coney Island, was it the Staten Island Ferry episode, and so I was on the set. I had my picture taken with Lucy and with Vivian Vance on the Staten Island Ferry set, and so I think we saw the apartment set was there that day too, but I thought that the ferry was a very cool thing. Oh, I wanted to tell you one thing about the California Here I Come. When they're driving across the George Washington Bridge, they closed the they closed down traffic on the George Washington Bridge to shoot that.
Did they really?
Yeah, Chris Christie's not the only guy who did that. And they didn't have Lucy and Desi and Bill Farlington in advance. They had 4 doubles in a Pontiac that looked exactly like.
Oh yes, right.
And
I thought so when I would see certain shots of the car go by.
Well, all the shots going across the country are the doubles.
Are the doubles.
But if you can't see it in this picture that you're showing right now, but
right, that's
so they shot the doubles in the car in the Pontiac, and then they wanted to shoot another shot so they could have it behind them in that shot that you just showed us. And the authority said, no, that's it. It's just taking too long. We have to open the bridge again. Get out of here. So all they had was the shot with the Pontiac in it. So if you look very carefully over Ethel's shoulder, you can see there's a Pontiac following him that's exactly the same as theirs, with 4 people in them that look exactly like they do.
I could, believe it or not, and this just tells you the things that stick with you. I can actually hear the sound of that car, that sort of grumbly sound when it was driving and when it was taking off. I can actually hear the actual sound of that Pontiac when they were driving it across country. Can you hear this? Can you hear the sound of the engine too, and the exhaust?
Yeah, because that was our car. I mean, it was not the one the one there was not a real car, but the one that the model, the Pontiac gave one to Lucy and one to Lucy Desi, and they gave one to my dad, just for while they stayed a sponsor, and then we had to give it back.
That's it.
So I like those perks.
Those are very, very nice perks for sure. Absolutely. It's really extraordinary. This is courtesy of you. We sort of dug it up here. We just wanted to show. Look at this shot. Tell us this fabulous shot from your collection, my friend.
This is from Kleptomaniac.
Oh, yes.
Episode. And the guy who is got a hat and is leaning down in the middle of under the word love.
Yeah.
That's the head of Philip Morris.
Oh, wow.
His ad man is right behind him, and directly below him at the very bottom is my Uncle Jack. I recognize him. And to the far left was my cousin Barry.
Wow.
Barry Moss, who later became a big casting agent on Broadway. And cast Lucy Arnaz in. They're playing
our song.
Our song, yeah.
Yeah.
And the ad guy who's in the middle there, behind the guy with the hat, is Milton Beo, and his grandson is Matthew Broderick.
The grandson is Matthew Broderick.
And Barry down at the bottom left corner cast Matthew Broderick in I believe How to Succeed, I believe.
So if the grandson is Matthew Broderick, who of course everybody knows is also married to Sarah Jessica Parker and big Broadway buffs and just the whole bit. Would that be James Broderick's father or the mother's father?
The mother's father.
The mother's, wow. Matthew Broderick's mother's father.
Right.
What a small world, huh?
Yeah.
I think that was All in the Family before All in the Family. Everybody in their Aunt Thelma was involved.
And I should have pointed out, I think my dad is up in the window in the booth up at the top.
Ah, that is so cool. So true. Maureen in Arizona says, in my humble opinion, I Love Lucy will always be the most iconic sitcom ever. There are others that are great, but nothing like Lucy. From your perspective, being so close to the situation, I mentioned what Lucy Arnaz has said, being rather close to the situation too. The writing, the perfect casting, they didn't touch things that were necessarily going to date or age. Maybe there's certain clothing styles or the Pontiac or different things, but it's all terrific. But they didn't touch things that necessarily were topical of the day. They didn't get into negativity. They didn't get into things that were, just dated it. Very, very evergreen. So the casting, the writing, the evergreen nature of it. What are some things as well that you think make that series still, with your father's extraordinary involvement, standing the test of time and still so beloved and resonating with generation after generation? That doesn't happen with a lot of things in the art world and entertainment. What is it? What are some of those other nuggets you think that have us so glued and connected to that series?
Well, my dad called it holding up the mirror. And he and the other writers would refer to it as holding up the mirror to the audience and give them stories that they will find familiar. The kind of things that people go through in everyday life, and they would just go down a list of things. What do married couples get in arguments about? Money. There's jealousy, and what kind of things make friends fall out. There was one of my favorite episodes called "Never Do Business with Friends," or about the washing machine. And
I love that episode, and it ends up going over the railing, and
it ended originally when it was in front of the audience. They ended it with them fighting, and just going out fighting. And they realized, no, we can't leave it that way. They have to put something funny in there and have them make up, because they have to be friends. And so they came back and they reshot that last bit. You don't want to kill the goose.
Right. What are some of your other favorite episodes of the series?
Well, the William Holden episode is my favorite, and that was my father's favorite too.
Yeah.
It's very unusual to have two big comedy scenes, both the one at the restaurant and the one where her nose catches fire at the end.
Yeah.
And I love my mother was a trained seamstress, and she always carried her sewing scissors in her purse. And so that's where the scissors that Ethel comes out to cut the spaghetti comes from. That's right out of my mother's purse.
Yeah.
So I just love that. If you look very carefully, you can see there's a piece of tape behind William Holden, marking where he's supposed to be sitting. And when he goes and looks at her and he goes back, the tape is a little bit visible, and he sort of feels behind him for the tape and finds his way. I've seen these things so many times, because when I had it edited. You
saw the little
tricks
of the trade a little bit, right?
We put all the deleted scenes and deleted footage back in to the shows for the DVDs that had cut out over the years. For some reason, Desilu or CBS, I believe it was, they cut the original camera negatives when they cut it for syndication. And so they cut a lot of stuff out, and we put it all in.
How do you think your father would have embraced the world of digital media now? Everything digital, and you were talking about real film back then. In some places, Kinescope, Jackie Gleason. Yeah. How would you think he would embrace the world of digital?
He loved embracing the new and the latest scientific things. I mean, he had one of the first people with a personal computer, and in fact, one of the things that was very strange after he passed, he had floppy disks full of things. If you recall, back then people used floppy disks to store stuff. And I put the floppy disk in, and it was coming out on the Daisy Roll printer, and I felt like it was a teletype from beyond this draft of his book. And I was just reading it because it came out of the typewriter, and it was so eerie. But it was like somebody's telling me I need to finish this book. But I think he would be very happy with it. He's certainly happy that the WGA settled their strike, and he was in the strike in the 80s. Went on strike. He was one of the founding members of the Writers Guild.
I like this. Like Chris Corman, of course, is here again. Chris, he says, Lucy once said that if she couldn't make what Jess and the writers wrote for her to be believable, she wouldn't do it. That makes sense. Yeah. And
Desi the same. Desi was, if Desi didn't like something, it was just something he could not perform it well. He just, you could tell. So if he didn't like it, they had to rewrite it. And Lucy, if she didn't think it was believable, she'd tell them, and they'd immediately go and work on it. There was one episode where they went through it at the first read through. Lucy and Desi were not involved in writing the scripts. They would have seen them the first time Monday morning at the table read, and it was Lucy Tells the Truth. The one where she goes over to her girlfriend's apartment for bridge, and they say, "What do you tell me? What do you really think of it?" And originally, the second act was they get audited by the IRS, and they didn't end up on the air because at the read through, Desi said, "No way, we're not doing this," because Ricky Ricardo would never cheat the American government. He was very concerned, and rightly so, that he was one of the few Latin American celebrities on television, and he was a role model, and he didn't want anybody to think that he was doing anything dishonest. And so they had to go back in that afternoon and write the second act, a new second act, and that was the one where the guy's throwing knives. She's with the balloons,
yeah,
and which is it turned out to be a classic. But they wrote that in just a couple hours.
That's incredible.
Yeah,
wow, that's really amazing. And of course, this amazing photo.
That's Bob Carroll Jr. and my dad, Jess Oppenheimer, and Madeline Pugh, who later became Madeline Davis.
And they were instrumental. There's the three of them together. What an extraordinary team, huh?
Yeah, I think that picture was taken at the 100th episode, which was The Business Manager, when they were filming The Business Manager.
That's
and they went to work for CBS like right out of college.
That's right.
Desi referred to them as the kids.
Yeah,
and Lucy also.
What great training ground too, I tell you, on so many different levels. Do you like the episodes colorized, or do you prefer them the black and white?
I like them both ways. I think they're doing a great job colorizing. I colorized the first one, which was for the DVDs, which was they needed a bonus material, and I said, well, there's one episode that nobody can object to being colorized because it was supposed to be in color, and it was art directed. The art director had planned it in color, and it was a really colorful sets, and we had home movies shot on set, so we knew what the colors were. And it was
I was going to ask you that, when you're doing that, and a lot of people I've heard so many people say that, how did they remember, how did they know the original colors of the sets, the outfits, everything else? Was that documented as it was happening? Were pictures taken? I mean, how were you able to really match it?
Well, a lot of there's a guy named Rick Carl, who's a great Lucy fan, and he collects props from I Love Lucy, or things that are identical to the props on I Love Lucy. So he has a lot of these things. In fact, he lent a lot of stuff for Aaron Sorkin's movie. made it very convenient for them. But also the fashion designers, Eloise Jensen, she did color sketches of all the dresses that she designed for Lucy, so we know what colors they were. And they took a lot of color publicity shots, which have survived over the years. And there was one, when I was doing the DVDs, somebody was selling an I Love Lucy ticket,
yes,
on eBay, and I wanted just a photo of it to include as bonus material, a photo on the DVDs. So I contacted the guy who was selling it. He'd already sold it, and I said, "Can you, before you mail it, can you take a nice high resolution photo of it for me?" And he said, "I've got something else. My father snuck into, or was in the audience for I Love Lucy, and he snuck a 16 millimeter movie camera in and took movies, color movies, home movies during the filming of an I Love Lucy episode. Would you like to see that?" I drove out to his house the next day, and got him to give that footage to CBS. And he kept sitting down every time there was, it got quiet. He'd get up during a noisy time with his camera, and then he'd sit down again. But I edited together with the footage from the show, and he was not taking sound, but there were microphones taking sound for the whole time, so we were able to cut it all together, and that's on the DVDs too. You can watch home footage taken from the audience, and it's in color, and so you can see what color the sets were.
That's a painstaking process, colorizing, isn't it? Or it's come a long way, of course, I'm sure, with advancements in technology, but overall,
it is. If you're going to take it seriously and be accurate about it, there are some movies that have been colorized that it looks accurate and real, but the art director was doing a black and white movie, and so it just looks like the art director did a bad job. But
like A Miracle on 34th Street or some of those, you think?
Well, the early colorization, like A Miracle on 34th Street, was everything in the background is sort of brown. And they're basically colorizing the people in the foreground, and I never liked that at all. But,
no.
But yeah, the Lucy's colorization has gotten better and better, and they consult with Rick, and I worked on the Italian movie, the grape stomping one with them.
Oh yeah, sure.
Because people always had said that people who did colorized individual photos had some of her wardrobe the wrong color, and I figured out, okay, this is what the real colors were, and that was a colorful episode too.
Absolutely.
But the difficulty with the colorization is a lot of those shots were overexposed, which works fine in black and white, but if you can't, there's nothing there to color if the color is blown out and their face looks almost white.
Yeah.
So, but I think I'm satisfied with it. I like the original black and white. I think it works great, and you don't need the color. But if it takes color to get young people, kids to be willing to tune in, I'll take it, because the most important thing is that this series survive and be introduced to the next generation.
You're doing such an extraordinary job, a brilliant job, Gregg, in not only keeping your father's legacy alive and introducing, Jess Oppenheimer to so many different generations, for those who want to know how things are put together and appreciate these kinds of shows, folks who love comedy, those who love television, all of it, but also preserving the heritage of that series and all of the people involved in addition to your father. It's a wonderful thing that you're doing, keeping the legacy going while also living your own dream and being a creative yourself. It's an interesting position to be in, isn't it? And you seem to have embraced it humbly, but beautifully as well, Gregg.
I'm having a lot of fun.
It's like a kid in a candy store, I imagine, huh?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And you're always discovering new things too along the way, right?
Yeah, and people, if other people discover them, they let me know about it because they know I'm involved in this kind of thing. But they asked me to work if I wanted to work on some other DVDs, and I said no because there's very few shows that I'd be willing to watch as many times as you have to watch something. I mean, I sat through these episodes in the editing room at CBS Television City, and we were working on the DVDs so many times, and just watch it, and they remain funny. But you discover things when you watch it. Unless you do that, like the Richard Widmark, it was called The Tour. The episode they get stuck in Richard Widmark's house, and before they get on the bus, it must have been like the fifth or sixth time we're doing the scene before they get on the bus, and there's two guys walk by the bus just before Lucy and Ethel show up, and I said, "Hold it, go back." And there's a guy holding his glasses, and another guy eating an ice cream cone. The guy eating an ice cream cone is my dad. The guy holding his glasses is Billy Asher, who was the director.
Yes, William Asher
was up in Montgomery, who was Bewitched.
Yeah, he was married at one time to Elizabeth Montgomery, and another icon. You see his name on the credits of so many series, and what was really interesting was it was short-lived, and one of the nostalgia channels, maybe Antenna TV, one of them ran it for a while, and I later doing some research learned why the series was actually put together, and it's the Paul Lynde Show. And it was put together because I think they didn't want to do Bewitched anymore. Elizabeth was good with it. And then they still had a contract with the network, with ABC. So they had to fill off the remaining years. And Paul Lynde had been on Bewitched as Uncle Arthur and made an appearance in I Dream of Jeannie and all of these shows of the day. And they gave him his own sitcom that they wrote for, and some of these names you're mentioning as well. And when I watched it, I did like it. They were like, oh, well, Paul should be the second banana. People don't take him well when he's the first banana. But I just thought, I enjoyed it. I thought he was funny. I thought the cast was funny. It was very, very short-lived. I don't know one season, I think, of the Paul Lynde Show, but it was interesting. I think William Asher was involved in that too.
Yeah, Paul Lynde used to crack me up. But Billy used to come by every day on his way back from the studio and stop at our house and have a drink. And I called him Uncle Billy. So he directed more than 100 episodes of I Love Lucy.
And other shows, yeah, you see that name, another prolific name in the industry as well.
The first one he did, his first episode of I Love Lucy was Job Switching, the Candy Factory episode.
That was the first one.
Yeah, did a very good job on his first day of work.
You know what was sad to see, and we were talking about it. We did a tribute to Bob Barker, and of course his passing, and we had Wink Martindale and several other great people on the show. Is to see the Columbia/Warner Ranch gone now, and making room for new high-tech studios and offices and all the progress moving forward. But just to see some of those iconic sitcom houses and movie houses, Hazel, Gidget, Bewitched, I Dream of Jeannie, Father Knows Best, they're all paper and dust now. It's kind of sad to see that a little bit.
Oh yeah, that's been true for a long time.
Did you ever get a chance to visit that lot, the ranch?
No, I went to CBS Studio Center a lot, where they did Hogan's Heroes and McHale's Navy, and I said I worked at MGM, and so I used to play around on the back lot, where they'd Gone with the Wind and so many other things. My dad was at Universal for a while, and I remember we were working on a show with Janet Leigh and Peter Falk, and it was shot in the exterior was where they did Harvey. It was the sanatorium.
Oh yes,
Harvey, and across the street was the Psycho House, and at MGM there was the Andy Hardy house and all these great things from the MGM movies, and it's just sad to see that all gone.
To see it all gone. When I was it was in Los Angeles for a television project, television shoot for some of my professional work. Michael Stern and I connected. Michael Stern, of course, ultimate Lucy fan.
Sure.
Got to play, what was it, Bridge with her, I think. Wrote the book, of course. And we went all through Paramount. He was doing...
Dr. Phil?
Yes, Dr. Phil, an audience.
Yeah.
He was getting the audience together. And so we went all through Paramount, and we were taking a look at the former Desilu Studios and all these other great places where these iconic shows were made. But there was just around the same street where Desilu was, or the building still remains, there was a little restaurant right across the street. I forget the name of it.
Mexican or American?
I think it was Mexican.
Yeah,
And it was a restaurant that he said Lucille Ball that they went to regularly, and it's still there right across from the building, 1 block over.
Lucy's Cafe El Adobe.
Yes,
that's where Governor Pat Brown and Linda Ronstadt used to date, because it was a big hangout for the musicians. So Linda took Governor Brown, or Jerry Brown, to Lucy's Cafe El Adobe. That intersection there has been dubbed. It has a sign that's called "I Love Lucy Square," and it's named after not only Lucille Ball but also Lucy of Lucy's Cafe El Adobe.
Yes, that's right.
And across the street from that, but on the Paramount side of of Melrose, there was a restaurant called Nick Adele's, which is in the Dad's memoir quite a bit. That's where everybody went to lunch, working at Desilu. And whenever I would, visiting my dad, I would eat there, and it was just so great. But Paramount wanted a bigger parking lot, so they terminated police.
Do you feel your father got his due? Do you feel your father got the recognition and appreciation, not just statues and accolades and all the rest, but just the real appreciation within the industry for the contributions he's made to entertainment, to television, to comedy, just towards the whole thing, to Hollywood as a whole? Do you feel your father got his just?
I think so. I'm getting there, happy with it. But part of the reason I got into this whole thing was when I was still a lawyer. After my dad passed away, it hit me very hard. And every time we go to a bookstore, I would go to the entertainment section, and I'm looking for my dad in the history of television, encyclopedia of television. And for some reason, his name was not there at all. Even he was left out of the listing of the writers. They say he was the producer of I Love Lucy, and the writer, which was written by Bob Carroll Jr. and Madeline Pugh. So I spent years sort of writing correction letters to these people, trying to get them to change it. And I finally decided I'm going to have to write my own book and finish my dad's memoir. And so that was one of my motivations. And that's why I got involved in the DVDs as well, because I wanted to make sure they did it right. I didn't think they were going to leave my dad's name out of it, but I just wanted to make sure. I realized these DVDs this is going to be the way people experience I Love Lucy for years, and I have to make sure that it's presented well. And then Paramount, thankfully, authorized a multi-million-dollar I Love Lucy restoration project, where they restored the whole series frame by frame in high def. I didn't supervise that, but I was there to consult with them on that. Because over the years, a lot of things have gotten changed. They changed the credits were wrong. They'd removed they couldn't anyway, but the original actors don't have any. They're not in the credits. They're just the stars. Right. They have a voiceover credit at the end, and a lot of those just. But,
exactly right. The voiceover would come on, and
yes, so we put all those back on the DVDs,
including the CBS I logo, too. Yeah, all those little extras, and some commercials too, right? Some of the original.
Every commercial we could find, yeah.
Yes, the spots.
I had my father's network broadcast prints, 16 millimeter backup prints which were used at the affiliate stations in case the network feed went down in the middle of it. They would have a 16 millimeter projector running simultaneously. And so my dad was given a set. It wasn't a complete set, but it was mostly complete. And so we had all the missing footage. And so we cut the 16 millimeter footage into the shows for the DVDs.
Did you, I would imagine you've met William Paley, chairman of CBS.
No, I never met William Paley.
Never met him, huh?
No.
Yeah. He was the one that gave it the green light, right? Yeah. Lucy gave him, I think I saw something when they were talking, on the passing of Lucille Ball, I believe he was quoted and talking about how she really came in there, and the sales pitch was so good. How could he say no to Lucille Ball? Because, they didn't want Desi to play, of course, her husband, because she didn't think initially America would respond to it.
Well, they said
best decision ever.
He may have said that her sales pitch was good, but they said no.
In the big right
up until NBC made an offer, and they said, okay, no, we're not going to lose them. And what they did was they made a deal with Lucy, and they gave Desi a radio show because the deal was to make a pilot. And even if it sold, it wasn't going to be till the end of the year. So they needed to make Lucy happy. So they gave Desi his own radio show, and they made him the host of a quiz show. It was called Earn Your Vacation, and changed the name to Your Tropical Trip. And they said, well, what? Don't we have a host? Have we hired a host for that show? It's starting in a few weeks. He said, yeah, but it's just a staff announcer at Channel 2 in LA.
Right.
What do I care if I lose one crummy announcer to NBC? Who is it, by the way? His name's Carson, Johnny Carson.
Oh my God! Wow, that's incredible, huh? What are some other things you're working on in addition to all of this that maybe you're excited about, Gregg?
Well, I'm still writing songs. I've had people can see that if they go to my YouTube channel, you can see one of the things I'm proudest of is one of my songs was on the PBS Jazz special.
Which one was it?
The song is called "Like the Brightest Star."
Okay, yeah.
If you go to my Gregg Oppenheimer on YouTube and look under "Like the Brightest Star," or I think I have a music section and playlist, you can find it. And some great musicians did a wonderful job on it. My partner Harry Allen wrote the music, and I wrote the lyrics. I'm not a composer; I'm a lyricist. But
right, exactly.
So I'm still working on that stuff and trying to get a recording album.
Do you love doing that? Do you love music? Do you love writing and
absolutely? And the I Love Lucy theme song that Elliot Daniel wrote, he did it as a favor of my dad. He was under exclusive contract to Disney. To Fox. Excuse me, Fox. Fox at the time. He left Disney, and he had to do it on the down low because they'll be violating his contract to do it. And so Dad promised to keep his name out of the credits. And so for the first year and a half of the show, you don't see Elliot Daniel as the composer. He just says music by Wilbur Hatch.
Wilbur Hatch, right? Yeah. Conducting the Desilu Orchestra and Desi Arnaz Orchestra. Yeah. Wow. That's interesting.
And he wrote it in about a day.
Really?
Yeah.
I love Lucy and she loves me. I always thought that, Desi Arnaz, was Desi Arnaz involved in any of the lyrics?
The lyrics did not come in. Well, I Love Lucy was always, I love Lucy.
Lucy and she loves me.
Well, and She Loves Me, it was that came a couple of years later for an episode called
Her Birthday. Was it the birthday one?
Last Birthday. Yes. Yeah. Those were written by Harold Adamson in 1953. So I really don't know how involved Desi was in that.
So the theme was written first, and then the lyrics down the line.
Exactly.
Oh wow! I didn't realize that either. That's fun. That's great to know. Wow. I remember, of course, when Lucy passed. Wow, all of the stations, like we're in the New York area here, so Channel 5 WNEW, now WNYW at the time. They just preempted everything, and it was just "I Love Lucy, I Love Lucy, I Love Lucy," and back in 1989, and it was really, really something, really very, very special. Did you ever, in the course of your time, sometimes you would befriend other kids on set whose parents are involved in the series? Did you become friendly with any of the other children of the parents who are part of the shows?
Not really. I remember I became friendly with on the Debbie Reynolds show. I became friendly with the guy who played Debbie's son, and his mother was not happy with it because I was just a cameraman, and she didn't want him hanging around with me until he found out that my father was executive producer. And then her attitude changed quite.
They came in the next morning with chocolate chip cookies, fresh baked. You can have as many as you want, Greg. That is funny.
I went to Rob Reiner's bar mitzvah. I remember.
Did you really?
Carl Reiner.
People can say that.
The Reiners were we sat at Mel Brooks's table.
Oh my God!
Carl Reiner was a neighbor of ours.
Yeah.
Friends of my mother bought their first house for them, or leased their first house when they came from New York to LA. And Carl told me that I interviewed him for my elementary school newspaper. And I was the entertainment reporter for my elementary school newspaper. And Carl said that he based the setup, which was with Rob and Buddy and Sally on the Dick Van Dyke Show.
Yeah.
Based on my dad and Bob and Madeline on I Love Lucy. Not the characters. I mean, Rob Petrie was based on Carl Reiner himself.
Right.
Just the idea of having a senior head writer and then a man-woman team of writers under him. It was based on that.
Wasn't it the Dick Van Dyke Show? Was it Men About the House or the original?
Starring Carl.
Right.
Yeah.
And they saw Dick Van Dyke starring on he and Sheldon Leonard, I believe, saw Dick Van Dyke on Broadway, Bye Bye Birdie, and they kind of liked him and plucked him to do the series and renamed it the Dick Van Dyke Show. And just there's another show where the writing and the casting and the sets were just like.
I never missed that. My
filmed at Desilu as well.
Yeah, and
so did you get to go on that set?
I think I went to once on that set. There was another show that I liked called He and She.
With,
Richard Paul Prentice and Richard Benjamin and Jack Cassidy. But my dad had another show in 1960 called Angel, which was a sitcom, and a French girl named Annie Farget. She was very, very talented, and it was a very funny show. And I went to that all the time because I was just the right age to go visit. Dick Van Dyke was supposed to be the husband, but they offered him the part on Broadway, and
Broadway.
So he made a good choice there. So we got Marshall Thompson, who was later did Victoria, was the husband of the show. But that's all on my YouTube channel too.
That's all on the channel.
Yeah.
Chris Corman, of course, and for those watching, Chris Corman is the son of legendary Harvey Korman, Carol Burnett Show, Blazing Saddles, you name it. Chris is a dear friend of mine and of our show, very supportive of it. Johnny Carson was considered for the role of Rob Petrie on the Dick Van Dyke Show. I had heard that, yes.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, I had heard that Johnny Carson was considered for that role. He also had asked, who gave Lucy the name Technicolor Tessie?
I don't know who gave her that name, but the person, Max Factor, was the one who colored her hair red for DuBarry was a lady, and the guy who made the decision was Sidney Gilleroff, and Max Factor. And ironically, we bought Sidney Gilleroff's house I mean, my parents bought Sidney Phillips when I was born. So
you had the peanut butter and jelly sandwiches while they bought the house. Yeah.
Well, that's the house they brought me back from the hospital to, the Sidney Phillips house in Brentwood. And it was a lot of coincidence. Across the street where Herb Broar, who was the production manager of I Lucy, had lived a couple of years before that. So it was a very small town.
Yeah, really, it is. I tell you, if folks want to learn more, and they, of course, the YouTube channel, which of course is your name, a lot of great material on there. I've been watching it myself, and it's you'll get lost in it all, and just kick back and watch one after the other, and you launch everything on there as well, which I think is great. If they want to find out more about things like this, where can they go? What's a good resource to find? Everything.
The best thing is lucynet.com.
So LucyNet, yeah.
lucynet.com, LucyNet.com. And the links to everything are right there. My Facebook page, my YouTube, the audiobook, the play, downloading the performance of the play. By the way, when the play came out in 2018, Sarah Drew from Grey's Anatomy played Lucy, and Oscar Nunez, who's Oscar the accountant of The Office, played Desi. And my father was played by Seamus Dever, who was on Castle, the TV show Castle. So there's Oscar and Sarah, and they did a fantastic job. Amazing.
Wow. And same thing if folks want to pick up this too, which is also on Audible.
Yes.
LucyNet.com.
LucyNet.com is links to all the links are there.
That's terrific. That's great.
And I should mention the audiobook, all the royalties, in fact, all the proceeds from the audiobook are going to the Entertainment Community Fund, which is supporting people in the creative arts and performing arts, including SAG-AFTRA members, but everybody else who's been laid low by the strike. So
that's amazing.
Cause.
It's kind of like that. I got to get him on as a guest, but we had Stanley Livingston on and Barry Livingston from My Three Sons when they were talking about Paul Peterson and the organization he founded really to help support the child actors with their, as a lawyer, you're very astute, I'm sure, with all of that, but just making sure that they get their due and everything is taken care of and no money is appropriated. That's a great thing to have too, huh?
Yeah, Paul's organization is a wonderful thing. Saying Paul Peterson and Shelley Fabre, my dad did a show with Sherry Lewis. Sherry Lewis.
Lamb Chop.
Yeah, Sherry Lewis and Lamb Chop. She had a children's show in New York, a local show, and my dad discovered her there and brought her out to Hollywood to do a pilot. But it was a sitcom pilot, not her as a ventriloquist, and so they needed two people to play her kids, and the ones who got the part, I can't remember the guy, the son, but the Sheila James, who later changed her name to Sheila Cool, went into politics, played the daughter or the sister, his brother, younger brother and sister of Sherry Lewis, but two other kids who met on stage for the first time auditioning for that part, which they did not get, were Paul Peterson and Shelley Fabre. That's where they met, auditioning for my dad for that failed pilot.
That's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
Wow. That's amazing. You've really touched upon, you think about it too, kind of like your father, the world of music, the world of stage, the world of television, publishing, all of it. What speaks to your heart the most? Is it music? Is it writing? What is the first thing? Or are they all equal for you, Gregg?
Comedy.
In any form, comedy.
Yes,
I like that.
Absolutely.
That's a great answer.
I should mention that Sherry Lewis, they can see the unseen audition of Sherry Lewis, not with Lamb Chop. She did a screen test for NBC in 1958, 2 years before she got an NBC show. My dad did with her, and I found it among my dad's things, and I put it up on my YouTube channel. So there's lots of gems that people haven't seen in a long, long time.
Fantastic. So absolutely peruse all of that and enjoy. And as we say here at the Jim Master Show, binge watch, binge watch, binge watch. Gregg, this was really fantastic, and I really appreciate all the time. And, you know, this was a nice sort of meaty, deep conversation, and you're welcome back anytime. And, you know, we don't have to go this long. It could be a half hour, 20 minutes, whatever. If you got new exciting things you want to share. But we created this, as you and I were chatting before I went live on the air, as sort of an entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series, as some of the guests have said, bringing back the lost art of conversation in a way that Carson, Dick Cavett, Merv, Mike, Regis did in the past, but with a modern vibe and a modern twist. We take some time, we have a good time with entertainment and phenomenal guests like yourself, sort of, again, marrying the old school ways of doing things with some of that modern vibe of today, and playing off my background in television and radio. And I really appreciate you taking time to come on and be so real, authentic, funny, and sharing all of this, but also keeping alive the beautiful work of your father, of all these cast of characters that were in your world and those who still are, and of course, celebrating your work and your contributions continued as well. So I hope you enjoyed the time with me on the show as much as I have with you, Gregg.
Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure.
Pleasure is all mine. And as my father has always said, and you'll appreciate this line, you know, the sage advice dad gives the child, especially when you're 7 or 8. Now, I might not have been on the I Love Lucy set at 4, but at 7, my father, Irish, New York dad, said, and it still holds true today, Jim, or of course Jimmy, because I'm the 5th James, so he Jim, I Jimmy at that point. I've grown into Jim. But Jimmy, whenever anybody says something kind or nice to you, always remember to say thank you very much, and then ask them to please put those kind words in writing and address it management. That my father, that sort of witty, dry, observational humor, incredible. He could be in a supermarket line and come up with whole scenarios, and that has been passed down to me, and that's why I can connect and plug into you and your dad and that way of thinking, that observational humor, which is some of my favorite on the planet. Quick-witted, dry, observational. It's extraordinary. I love that kind of humor, and your father, a master at it, and you as well, and carrying along the legacy. And of course, people who also acted that out, like Chris Corman's dad. They call it, the Jackie Coogan law, as you're talking about Paul Peterson, and that law that was to protect the young performers. Absolutely, Chris, you are so right. Again, this was terrific. Congratulations on everything. I encourage folks, again, you can go to the YouTube channel and also go to lucynet.com to learn about all the things we talked about, the memoir, the play. Now, is the play still going in other parts of the country now?
It's completed its national tour, but hopefully it'll be produced by local. It can be produced everywhere now because you can license the performance rights from
that's great.
Next Stage Press, and that link is on lucynet.com too. So if you have a community theater group in your area, tell them about it.
Tell them, yeah, there you go. And again, the memoir, listening on Audible as well, which is fantastic. And real quick, you had these, and we sort of scooped them up just to put them on here. And again, these, we thank you as well. This was something cool. Now, was this from your dad's actual collection? Is this the actual scripts, his work from Lucy?
Yeah, that one doesn't have any marks on it, but yes, there's a PDF companion that comes with the audiobook,
Yeah.
And in that I included, this was like the first draft. Oh, I guess, yeah, where it says the producer up there, that's my dad's handwriting. He crossed out what Madeline had typed. Yeah, so you can see
Some of the editing that was happening on actual I Love Lucy episodes. There it is.
Mhm.
So your dad kept these things, huh? In his treasure trove of goodies.
This is these pages are things that I acquired later. When I was working on the memoir, I was just trying to find everything I could from collectors and people who would grab stuff out of the trash. And somebody had some Madeline's second draft scripts.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, it's kind of like when they did the restoration of the Brady Bunch house to bring the interior of that house in Studio City to match what the Paramount set looked like. And they did HGTV did that nationwide call. If anybody had any artifacts, collectibles, anything that looks like what was on the set, if you can bring it our way, it'll be inside that Brady Bunch house. And America just stepped up, and people had they had the horse that was on the bureau. They had the vase and the chairs it's amazing what people, I have the I Dream of Jeannie bottle, the replica hand painted of the Jim Beam bottle, which is kind of cool.
I was interviewed once on the radio during the book tour, and this guy at the time had a national show, and he had bought at auction one of the vitamin Vegemin bottles, one of the original vitamin.
Oh wow! Gee, could you imagine that?
Yeah,
that's incredible.
And they auctioned off the headdress from Lucy Gets in Pictures, where she's coming down the stairs dressed as a showgirl, and she gets shot in this movie that they're supposedly filming, and the Broadway Cares Equity Fights AIDS auctioned it off and went for only $5,000.
Wow, that's incredible.
Yeah.
This was really sensational, my friend, and I'm so glad we got a chance to connect. And of course, our dear friend Chris Corman is here in the house. We love Chris and everybody watching, all the viewers that are watching and commenting and saying wonderful things. Our viewers, New York City and Sweden and all around the world. And if you missed any of this episode with our very, very special guest, author, playwright, director, son of the iconic Jess Oppenheimer, Gregg Oppenheimer, joining us here on the show. You can see it all archived on the YouTube channel in full. So check it out, binge watch, share it. Merlin in Canada, loving it as well. Gregg, thanks for all the information about the great sitcoms. You're now a Lovity. You're a Jim Master Show Lovity. I know. I know. You go from I Love Lucy to Lovity, which is incredible. I combined the words light, love, and levity, slipped up one day and came out with Lovity. And during the pandemic, I always whisper that. I don't want to throw off YouTube when you say those words. And when guests are told that they're a Jim Master Show Lovity by the viewers, a lot of them say their feet start tingling when they realize they are. Are your feet tingling right about now, Gregg? Or is it just because you've been sitting in the chair for a bit?
I think I'm numb from the waist down at this point.
He's numb from the waist down because he's a Lovity. While one of our guests said that they started when they found out they were a Lovity, because as you know, you can get Oscars, Emmys, Tonys, Grammys, Peabodys, all these great awards, Clios, Tellys, but when you get a Lovity, it's quite a thing. He started levitating, he said. Now we can't see the other half of you. You may be levitating for all we know. So we'll assume that he's levitating.
I know better than
and it's not in his pajama bottoms. We will never know. Maybe I am too. You'll never know. Hey, don't pan that camera down. Good thing it's not a 3-camera shoot. You're the best, Gregg. Thanks for all the time. Congratulations on everything. Again, gang, LucyNet.com is the headquarters for it all. Spread the word about our show. Truly, as you've learned, Everybody tells everybody, and if there's other folks you think would like to stop by the show, they're all welcome. And I appreciate the time and continued blessings and joy in your life. And we'll keep the porch light on for you. You're welcome back anytime, Gregg.
Thanks very much.
You're welcome. You take care and be well. And now fade to black, portions recorded. The big CBSI comes in. Instead of the CBSI, we'll do this. Boom. You take care and be well. Thanks again, Gregg. Cheers.
Bye, Jim.
Bye-bye now. Incredible conversation with an incredible guy. He's very humble, but he's super talented. And we're talking about Gregg Oppenheimer, son of Jess Oppenheimer, the iconic head writer, producer, one of the creators of one of the greatest situation comedies on television ever, I Love Lucy, but also so many other shows and other projects that he was a part of that Gregg was sharing with us, which I thought was really exceptional. And then, of course, his true love and honor for his dad, his own career as well, in law, and of course, in the creative world. He's the person that put together all those I Love Lucy DVDs, the DVD series. You may have that in your collection. I have it in my collection as well. As soon as they came out with that, we ran right to the store and we got our collection. Matter of fact, we picked up several others. I think we got, oh my God, we got Maude. We got the Carol Burnett Show on DVD, Twilight Zone, of course, I Love Lucy, all of the epic shows. An extraordinary conversation, a very talented gentleman joining us. And again, his dad's memoir, which he, of course, brought to life. Definitely pick that up. If you're a TV fan, a Lucy fan, a comedy fan, writing, or you just want to enjoy, there it is on the screen, folks. Laughs, Luck, and Lucy, How I Came to Create the Most Popular Sitcom of All Time, Jess Oppenheimer with Gregg Oppenheimer. And look at the names there, narrated by all these incredible people, narrated by Ivan, but with performances by Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, Vivian Vance, William Frawley, Gail Gordon, Hans Conried, B. Benaderet, Alison Arngrim, Phil Proctor, David Osman, plus I Love Lucy lost scenes as well. Yeah. And of course, keep an eye out for this. Hopefully this does return. If you didn't get a chance to see it, look for it and put the word out that you would like to see it again, because, it takes a village. Lucy loves Desi. A funny thing happened on the way to the sitcom. This was a great trip down memory lane. Now, of course, we've had conversations with folks who have been a part of I Love Lucy, and of course, the daughter of Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz, the wonderful friend of our show and friend of mine, Lucy Arnaz, has been here several times. If you didn't see those episodes, check it out. Just really, really fantastic. And now everybody's going to want to go and watch the series if you haven't had a chance to watch it recently. This is a wonderful photo. We appreciate Gregg sending these. This is Lucille Ball with Jess Oppenheimer, his dad. And some of these great shots, too, that we shared. There's the actual set. And he was on set at 4 years old. Could you imagine that? Talking to, Lucille Ball and just having an opportunity to be there, and see the action. What great memories too, right? And he shared many of them with us here exclusively on the Jim Masters Show live series. We really appreciate Gregg joining us, and we appreciate you joining us as well. If this is your first time watching the Jim Masters Show live entertainment lifestyle celebrity talk show series, that's a mouthful. All you have to do is say the Jim Masters Show. Everybody knows what you're talking about. I'll say all the rest in the titles. Spread the word, let everybody know. And something really essential, it does take a village, right? We always say. We would love it if you give this episode and all the ones. We've done about 1,005 shows. Could you imagine that? Over 1,000 shows in just 3.5 years. Like this episode, click the thumbs up, share the episode link. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and do leave a comment for us as well. Definitely leave a comment, interact with us. There's a comment section under all the episodes, and many of you from around the world leave comments, and we love seeing that. Let us know what you enjoy about our series, who you'd like to see. Maybe let us know who you'd like to see on the show. You know who's with us tomorrow? A very popular actor. He was in Grease 2. He was in T.J. Hooker with William Shatner and Heather Locklear. And he was on Dance Fever and so many other shows and specials and theater. Iconic actor Adrian Zmed is with us. Yes. Tomorrow, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, for those that are watching live. Next week, Allison Arngrim, Nellie Olson from Little House on the Prairie, return visit, and also Mariette Hartley, legendary actress Mariette Hartley and her husband, who are involved in an exciting new project. They're joining us as well. Just some of the incredible guests. Ruta Lee was here just the other day. May Pang, of course, whose documentary, The Lost Weekend, documents the 18-month loving relationship she had with John Lennon when John was still married to Yoko Ono, and Yoko Ono endorsed and suggested that relationship. If you didn't see that, that's on our YouTube channel as well. And so many. If you love the child stars, if you love the television stars, they have been here as well from so many great shows, from My Three Sons, from Family Affair, from Happy Days, from iconic series and movies. So check it all out. And yeah, I love this. Love doing these shows for you. Love putting together, the Jim Masters Show Live series and celebrating life, celebrating our viewers, celebrating my work, celebrating us together, and all these extraordinary guests who come in from Hollywood, Broadway, television, film, stage, music, all of it, food, culinary arts, and all the rest, and sports, comedy, psychics, inspired people, everybody joining us here on the Jim Masters Show Live series. If this was your first time here watching, we welcome you to the Jim Masters Show series. It's wonderful to have you here. We thank you very much. And we thank all of our faithful, lovely viewers for watching, supporting, sharing. Don't forget, you can do a super emoji, super sticker, super chat in the Lovely Hall chat room while the show is on live. That really helps us big time keep the series going, all the hours, all the content, and everything that it takes to put it together, all these epic shows, this unique series. And of course, there's a super thanks icon. That's a little icon that's underneath all the episodes. You click that, and that helps support us as well. When you subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, and give us a like and thumbs up, don't forget to click the notification bell, little bell icon that's next to the subscribe button underneath, because when you click that, you'll get notifications from us about all the episodes and all the great content we have coming your way on the Jim Masters Show Live Entertainment Lifestyle Celebrity Talk Show Series. The name has just continued to grow. We really thank you very much. Kathleen in New York City, one of our longtime faithfuls. You see her a lot here. Thank you, Jim, for working so hard and bringing us such amazing shows and guests. You are the best. Thank you very much. Put that in writing and address it management. Thanks, Kathy. Maureen says, I'll second that, Kathleen. Not sure how he does it, but I'm so glad he does. I'd be lost without JMS Live. Thanks to everybody for all these great comments. And thank you, Maureen in Arizona. And Chris Corman stopping by our show, and everybody else. Lots of surprises all the time here at the Jim Masters Show Live series. I haven't had dinner yet, and it's 9 o'clock at night, East Coast time here. It's been that kind of crazy, busy day. Just a lot of craziness going on. And so very, very busy with the television work, radio work, a lot of TV shows, shoots and radio shows daily. And just some other things happening as well. So thanks for all the letters, the emails, the texts, the calls, everything else, the smoke signals, the Morse code that you've been sending, telling us that you really enjoy what we're doing here and you appreciate what we're doing here at JMS. All these episodes later, I can't believe it's 1,000. It's got to be, it's like 1,005, 1,010 episodes now. It's just extraordinary. And it just blows me out of the water every time I see it and all the love for it. So whatever time you're watching our show around the world, we love you. We thank you very much for being with us. And share, like, comment, and come by and see us again. All right? Stop by. Tell a friend. make a little project every day. Tell a friend that you saw this series and you thought it's pretty cool, and you will recommend it. Recommend it. That helps us grow. So does all the other things that we talk about. Subscribe, like, comment, and all the rest. One more time, let's put our hands together and thank our very special guest, the one and only Gregg Oppenheimer, son of I Love Lucy creator, head writer, producer Jess Oppenheimer, author, playwright, director, producer in his own right, and an all-around great guy. Right here exclusively on the JMS Jim Masters Show live broadcast for all of you. Good stuff. Do I love Lucy? You know I do. I've always, oh boy, when I was a kid, I used to have a crush on Lucille Ball. I was in love with Lucille Ball and Barbara Eden and Elizabeth Montgomery and Mrs. Partridge, Shirley Jones, and Juliet Mills, who was Nanny and the Professor. Yes. Yeah. Great actresses, great talent. And of course, Desi Arnaz too. Desi Arnaz was so invaluable. He was so witty and so funny, and his contributions, of course, are, some people even say, did he get the full credit he deserved? I'm not sure he did. Not only as an incredible, brilliant musician and, orchestra leader and so much more, band leader, but also he was incredibly funny and witty. And of course, he created Mothers-in-Law as well. Eve Arden, Kay Ballard, and this powerhouse team right here of Lucille Ball, Desi Arnaz with Desilu Studios. So much product came out of Desilu Studios. Iconic shows and series that they greenlit. Mission Impossible, others. Dick Van Dyke was filmed on the Desilu set and so much more. They're responsible for so much of our incredible entertainment over the years. And again, the iconic cast of everybody there. Keith Tiberow, of course. I'd love to get him as a guest on the show. He played Little Ricky. And of course, a lot of people thought Desi Arnaz Jr. was Little Ricky. No, they were actually friends. They were in a band together and all. But Desi Arnaz, Lucille Ball, Vivian Vance, William Frawley. And remember when Lucy Arnaz mentioned when she was a guest on our show that Vivian Vance was the one who really told her, to get it back into theater and into her roots. And she sure did. Vivian Vance was a wonderful mentor to Lucy Arnaz, daughter of Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz. If you didn't see those episodes with Lucy Arnaz and many others, check them out right here on the Jim Masters Show live series and archived on the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV. All right, we're going to scoot off. We have to have some dinner here. Thank you very much. Tight, lovely hugs to Maureen and everybody else, Merlin, and some of the regulars. If you watch often, you see some of these names because they're here, no matter what. And thank you, Jane, as well. And I really appreciate it. And good stuff. And Linda Odell coming in just at the last second. Linda, if you missed this episode, you've got to watch this one in the archives, right, gang? Linda Odell needs to see this in the archives. She will love it. We took a look at I Love Lucy and the making of I Love Lucy and so much more, Linda, with this incredible guest who's been here for almost 2 hours, which is extraordinary. Gregg Oppenheimer, son of one of the head writers of I Love Lucy, Jess Oppenheimer, which I think is really cool. And not only head writer, but producer and creator. And we talked about the series. We talked about all the cool things that Gregg's doing and so much more. So don't fret if you ever come in late, gang. You can see these episodes archived on our YouTube channel. All right, we're going to scoot off. Got to eat dinner. And yes, hope you're doing well there in Florida, in the St. Augustine area. We missed you, Linda, and it's so good to see you here on JMS. And Jane in Sweden says it's 3:12 a.m. where she is. Bedtime. Hop in that new bed you got there. You got a new bed, right? So hop into that bed and enjoy and sing the I Love Lucy theme song as you drift off to La La Land in Sweden. All right, gang, we're going to scoot out. I said that about 100 times now, but thanks for watching this episode of the Jim Masters Show live series We love you all. Take care and be well. Love one another. Take care of one another. And don't forget to take time for yourself. Come by and see us again if you enjoyed this episode and all the ones that we have prepared for you. And I'll be right here waiting for you. We love you all. Take care. And just go out there and be a kind person, be empathetic, and love one another. And don't forget to love yourself. Cheers, relax, take care. I'll be right here waiting for you on the next episode of The Jim Masters Show. This is quite the close, right? My stomach is rumbling. I gotta see you later. You know what it is? We don't say goodbye here. We say see you later, because we keep the porch light on for you as well. You're always welcome to stop by. I'll see you on the next episode. Adrian Zmed is with us and many other guests coming up. Just look at our YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, to see upcoming episodes and to see past episodes that you might want to binge watch, shows and episodes and guests you might have forgot about and want to see again. Or for those of you who didn't see them, check it all out. We'll see you soon. I'm Jim Masters, thanking you for your time. This time till next time. We love you all. Cheers.